Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Jace here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 5 of Deku the Shield Hero. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. News of Midoriya's and Bakugo's acceptance into UA had already spread across his middle school when they arrived the next day. Many of Izuku's classmates approached the green-haired teen to congratulate him, as well as express some envy that he had gotten into such a good school. The same couldn't be said for Bakugo, who had been so sure that he had gotten in first place in the practical. As soon as he walked into class and laid eyes on Izuku, the ashen blonde was so enraged that it seemed like every blood vessel in his body would explode with the same amount of force that came from his hands. This caused everyone around him to give Bakugo a wide berth, except for Midoriya, who took it in stride. He didn't even look nervous when the two were called to the principal's office to be congratulated by the man. When that school day ended, Bakugo roughly grabbed Izuku by his uniform jacket, where he then dragged the freckle-faced youth outside. Then, once he found a corner that was isolated, the blonde slammed Izuku against the wall. "I'm going to tell you this once. Drop out now! I was supposed to be the only one in this shitty school to go to UA. Me! You took that honor away from me. That and my spot at the top of the charts. Those belonged to me." While Bakugo yelled at the top of his lungs, spit flying outward, Izuku kept a calm expression through it all. "Well, you still did very well. I mean, third place is nothing to be ashamed of." Upon hearing Izuku's pleasant and kind response, Bakugo's eyes widened in rage. His pupils were nothing more than tiny dots as more veins filled his eyes. The blonde's teeth clenched so tightly that if they moved, sparks would fly outward. And as Bakugo's hands began to shake, Izuku reached into his pocket to pull something out. "Anyways, I've been working on this since I heard you aced the mock test. I wanted to give it to you once you got your acceptance letter. Congratulations." Somehow, Bakugo's pupils became even smaller as he looked down at what looked like a ring box held in Izuku's scarred hand. The young Midoriya flipped it open with one hand, revealing a pin shaped like a stick of dynamite made of silver. As Bakugo looked at it, he began breathing hard before looking up at the one who made the pin. "What is this?" "It's a gift. You know, something to wear on your uniform, if the school allows it. Or you could put it on your backpack, or—" "Shut the hell up!" As Bakugo roared at Izuku, the teen grabbed the gift made for him before tossing it aside with an explosion from his hand. "You can keep your damned pity gifts, you shitty nerd, because I don't want them! Do you hear me? I don't need them! I don't need you looking down on me! What makes you think that?" Bakugo's words were suddenly cut short as he closed his eyes. For a moment, he held Izuku there in silence before pulling away and letting Izuku drop onto his feet. Without another intelligible word, the blonde bomber stormed off, leaving Izuku alone, shoulders slumped, as he watched his childhood friend storm off. After that day, Izuku didn't talk much with his childhood friend. Instead, for the next several months, Izuku Midoriya continued to work out his body as best as possible. Despite being told that he had done well, the young teen had seen where he needed to improve. And if he wanted to succeed, to truly become the hero he wanted to be, Izuku knew that every moment counted. While he continued to work out at the gym, he was later joined by a new training partner. As soon as she graduated from her own middle school, Raphtalia had gotten herself an apartment close to UA, as her family lived much too far from the school. And once she had fully settled in, Raphtalia joined in with Izuku's training to better their training with their quirks. Izuku had suggested that they train in the nearby forest, the same one where he and Bakugo played in when they were younger. At first, both teens figured it would just be nice to find an isolated spot with plenty of shade. But as the days went by, the two quickly discovered that this place was a hidden gold mine of training potential. There were several large trees with branches sturdy enough to hold them, allowing for them to practice their fighting styles in midair, with narrow footing. There were also several fallen trees that acted like bridges over rivers of various sizes. As for training on the ground, they learned to use the trees to their advantages in various ways. As they trained, Izuku learned more about Raphtalia's quirk, Tanuki. This quirk not only gave her the ears and tail of the named animal, but it also gave her some of the illusionary abilities associated with some of the folklore surrounding the named creature. Right now, all she could do were minor illusions. But when you combine that with her sword skills as well as the forest environment, it became a powerful combo. Finally, the first day of the new semester at UA had come and Izuku Midoriya was heading down the sidewalk with the gates of a great school in sight. The sunlight shined brightly against his shield, the teen having spent several hours the night before polishing it so it looked its best. Dressed in his new UA uniform, there was almost a skip in the boy's step as he walked while both his hands held onto the straps of his backpack. He had even managed to fit one of his favorite All Might action figures inside of the bag. So, the man himself could sign. That, as well as something special for another student. As he drew closer to the great gates, Izuku noticed a familiar set of ears on the other side of a steady flow of students entering the building. Carefully, the young Midoriya began to slip past a mass of teens until he was standing next to Raphtalia. The teen's cheeks were lightly tinted red as he got a good look at her in her uniform. Oh man, she looks so cute! Should I say something? That'd be weird?
Izuku, I was hoping to meet you here.
Izuku gave the girl his best smile while scratching the back of his head, hoping that she didn't notice he was blushing.
You were?
Raphtalia nodded, looking pleased as she did so while her tail began to wag.
I thought that if we had time, you'd like to explore the school with me before class begins, just so we have an idea of where everything was.
Izuku let out a hum of his own, reaching into his pocket to pull out his phone and check the time. He had arrived earlier than he thought, so there was no real rush to get to class. So, with a nod, he agreed. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you want to learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered. And with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in the description down below. For about the next 20 minutes, the pair navigated themselves throughout the school. Their first stop was finding out where their classroom was so that they could figure out where everything else was in relation to it. It took a while to find the massive doors, and when they did, they gave it a solid look before turning around without bothering to go in. From there, the pair continued to look around the school while being mindful of the time. After all, neither of them wanted to be tardy on their first day and knew there would be plenty time to check out the rest of the school. So, they managed to find the lunchroom, drooling when they saw the massive menu provided by the Hero Lunch Rush, as well as several of the massive gyms. It was only when the alarms they had set on their phones signaling that class would start in 10 minutes did they start heading back to Class 1A.
It's so wonderful that we're going to be in the same class.
As Raphtalia, her tail continued to wag while a bright smile lit up her face, Izuku couldn't help but nod. I know. I wonder if they did that because they saw how well we worked together during the entrance exam.
Well, regardless, I'm glad to be doing all this by your side.
As she said this, Raphtalia lowered her head a little, brushing away her bangs as she did so, causing Izuku to feel a bit of panic.
So, let's do our best to become the heroes we want to be.
Huh. I don't think I ever asked you why you wanted to become a hero.
Really? I could have sworn you did.
Izuku shook his head. I think I have an idea, though. About what happened to us? Raphtalia nodded, her expression becoming more serious now.
There's not a day that's gone by when I haven't thought about that time. About the others who were there with me. About the monsters who put us through all that. I've found out that they managed to save some of the other kids and arrest the people who bought them like they were nothing more than objects.
Izuku nodded, though his mother didn't like it. She had taken him to the police, also called up the heroes who had been working on the case several times after he had returned home. It had helped him fall asleep easier knowing that most of the people who were involved in the kidnappings were now behind bars. But there were others that got away. I told the police and heroes about this weird short man who looked like a doctor who came in. He was interested in children who had powerful quirks. They never found him. And there were others they couldn't find as well, criminals and children alike. I know that it's unrealistic, but I want to fight as hard as possible so that no one ever goes through what we went through. That's the sort of hero I want. No, I am going to be. She then looked over at Izuku. So, what about you? What made you want to become a hero? In response, Izuku blushed as he had scratched the back of his head. I actually wanted to become a hero ever since I saw All Might's debut video. It's nothing like him fighting some villain for the first time, just him saving people. What stuck out to me was how he smiled, reassuring everyone. That's why I wanted to become a hero, to save as many people as I can. I want everyone who sees my shield to know that I'm there to make sure everything will be okay, that I'll protect them from whatever danger is there. Izuku let out a laugh. I'd do it with a smile like All Might's, but that didn't work so well the first time I tried it. Raphtalia laughed as well. It was the thought that counted. Maybe you should practice it more. Then, a wicked grin from Izuku came out. Without another word, his face seemed to morph into an almost exact double of the number one hero's. Then, he spoke next. He did so with the same bombastic energy that All Might was known for. How's this? As Raphtalia began to laugh uncontrollably, lightly punching Izuku in the shoulder, the two realized that they were alone in the hallway. Right up ahead, Izuku could see the Class 1A sign, not knowing if he would ever get another chance to be alone with Raphtalia today. Izuku made a snap decision. Stopping where he was, he set down his backpack. Upon seeing this, the Tanuki girl stopped as well, watching him as he began fishing through his bag. What are you doing? Class is going to be starting soon. I know, As his fingers wrapped around a small package, Izuku looked up to see something he had never thought he'd see in his life. It was the face of a man with bloodshot eyes and messy, black hobo-like hair looking back at him without so much as blinking. What's more, the rest of his body looked like a massive yellow caterpillar. Yelling and jumping to his feet, Izuku raised his shield while Raphtalia looked ready to swing her bag at the thing. About time you noticed me, said the thing as it got up. It then unzipped the zipper on its body, revealing it to be nothing more than a sleeping bag, which he then slipped out of. Now both teens could see that it was a man dressed all in black with a white scarf around his neck that obscured his mouth. Not that this put them at ease, still holding up their weapons in case this strange man decided to attack. I've been trailing you two since both of you walked away from the classroom. If the two of you are serious about wanting to become heroes, then we're going to have to work on your awareness. But at least you two weren't wasting time, which is precious in a hero's line of work. Rather than sitting around in class socializing, you were using what time you had to familiarize yourself with the new environment. Strangely, being told that they had been followed for that long did not put either teen at ease. In fact, it just did the opposite. Relax. I'm your homeroom teacher, Mr. Aizawa. That got the two young heroes to lower their guards. Not by much, as either of them never heard of this man, nor did they recognize him. Plus, there was also the fact that his gaze upon them was somewhat unnerving, like he was peering into their souls, but just enough for it to show that they were relaxing their guard. After all, only students and faculty members could get into the school. For several long seconds, the three stood there in what felt like a staring contest before finally, Mr. Aizawa spoke again. I saw the footage of your performance in the entrance exam. Care to tell me why the two of you were working together? This surprised the two as they had not expected anyone to ask, but they complied with the request, not seeing any reason to argue. Nor did they lie. Izuku explained that it was never stated in the rules that they couldn't work together, and that given how the exam was set up, they decided to treat it as a mass breakout. Raphtalia had chimed in, explaining that this way they could help and work more effectively while watching each other's back. Mr. Aizawa remained silent, only nodding his head from time to time without interrupting them. In truth, he had already suspected that this was the case. He, along with all the other teachers, had watched the footage when President Mike had began explaining the rules. To find a student who was willing to ask if they had to destroy the robots was not something one finds all that often. Usually, the students were ready to show off the power of their quirks, while those who had non-combative quirks just sank in their seats. And now, hearing this made him glad he had agreed to Midnight's suggestion of having them in the same class. So, when the two had finished speaking, Mr. Aizawa decided to give them a compliment. I see. That was very rational thinking on both of your parts. Now, class will be starting soon. As he moved to take a step, his shoe collided with Izuku's bag, causing his All Might figure's arm to slip out. The teacher saw this, eyes narrowing in disapproval, but said nothing else about it as he continued to walk. Really? You're not that upset that we didn't do everything on our own? Without bothering to stop, Aizawa motioned the two to follow him to the classroom, which they did, after Izuku quickly grabbed his bag, sliding the All Might figure fully inside. I've seen more than my fair share of so-called pro heroes heading into situations like that. Plenty of heroes around, but refusing to work together. More interested in getting the spotlight all to themselves, as well as the money from the villains they captured. It's not practical, and the ones who end up paying the price are usually the ones who are there to help. And as you yourself said, it wasn't against the rules. With that said, I'm disappointed in you, Midoriya. You should have known the amount of time you bought with that shield of yours. You would have been negligible at best. Time that you could have been spent better helping your teammate. By this point, Aizawa's hand was already at the door, ready to open it. Now, let's see what else you both can do. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description down below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.